Good day to everybody. Today we are meeting through Tax Talk, the YouTube channel of Ranaweera Associates, to discuss about the government budget 2021. Now, as we know, on 17th of November, government read their budget for 2021. Now it is the time for us to study the points what they have read and the effects they are on. We will mainly discuss the tax related matter. Before moving to the subject matter, I would like to invite everybody to submit your questions to the comments section of our YouTube channel. Now we will move to the subject matter. Now, when we take the government budget 2021, this government budget they have set based on some principles. Mainly, the policies introduced by the president, the current president, is the main topic of this. Now that is vistas of prosperity and splendor. In that there are so many expectations during next 5 years to suit with this, to meet with these expectations. This time budget they have highlighted or they have prepared that in certain special areas. One is to encourage industry, economic related industries. Now in Sri Lanka, for us to develop Sri Lanka, this industrial sector is one of the most important thing, because to earn even tax money, the industrial sector is very much important. Therefore, they have mentioned that through this budget, they are encouraging the industrial sector to develop in Sri Lanka. Then the second thing is for proper activation of a tax system. The tax system has to be a very simplified system. When the tax system is simplified, the people will follow the tax system without evasions. It has to be very simple. That is also concentrated in this budget. Then the environmental protection. Now, as we know in the world, one of the biggest issue is the environmental pollution. Every country is trying their best to safeguard the environment, because the country's environment is ultimately affecting to the world environment. Therefore, now through this budget, the government is trying to look into this environmental protection action as well. Then, reduction in cost of living. Obviously, when we take a country like ours, the cost of living, when we match with our income, the cost of living is high. There are so many people who are struggling to survive with their day-to-day life. Now for that, we have to think about the cost of living. Now they have concentrated, when they prepare this time budget, they have concentrated these 4 items. The industrial sector, then the simplification of tax system, then environmental protection, and the reduction of cost of living. Saying that, we'll move forward. Now, it says environmental protection. Under the environmental protection, eco-sensitive sustainable development with unique identity. Now under that, they are talking, they have structured that under a couple of areas. One is minimizing the disparities in income tax levels. Now, when we take a country like ours, income tax levels may be different. Now, in this, they are talking about two sectors. One is the income level difference in provinces. When we take one province, compare with another province, the income level, there's a material deviation. The other thing is income level among individuals. Now, when we take one individual's income level may be $3,000 a year, another person may be $100,000 per year. There's a disparity in income level. Now, they have concentrated on both. Then expand the health services. When you take a country like ours, our health system is 100% free. Government is providing free health services to everybody. Then we have to strengthen the health sector. Then the knowledge-driven economy. Now, for a country's development like ours, when we take Asian countries, majority of our people are having good educational background and knowledge. They are capable. Then we have to get the maximum benefit out of the knowledge gained by our people. There. Then children and youth engage in extracurricular activities. Now, when
taxation
children and the youth is the most important sector, because they are the people who are to take the country in future. Therefore, we have to promote them to act or get trained to suit with the future of the country. Then Gama Samaga Pilisandara program. This is mainly communication based. That program also to be activated or through this budget. Then people-centric public service. Now, when we take the public service has to be to give the maximum benefit to the country's people. Therefore, they have mentioned that they are concentrating on people-centric public services. Then, reform outdated and inefficient legal system. As you all know, our legal system, there are so many weaknesses in our system. As an example, if we'll take a case with relate to a land ownership, it might go for about 10 years to give the judgment. Even in other cases, like even commercial cases, it takes the time, excessive time. Therefore, we have to strengthen our legal system to suit with the country's economic development. Then reform certain industries and concessions to enhance the productivity. Reform certain industries and concessions to enhance productivity. Now, these developing countries, the main issue is the productivity. As we know, if we take our industries, in most of our industries, we are running at a lower productivity situation. When we take some of the European countries, their productivity rate is very much high. Maybe due to hybrid system or latest technology systems and all, and their productivity is very high. Therefore, now especially if we'll take the agriculture sector in Sri Lanka, the productivity is very low. Therefore, we have to increase the productivity. Then at the same time, even in the industries. Now, when we are manufacturing 100 pieces per hour, if we can manufacture 110 pieces per hour, that's a great achievement. We have to think about the productivity. Then, energy requirement through renewable source. This is one of the sector where most of our governments have not concentrated sufficiently. They have concentrated on this renewable energy, but not up to the mark. Now, Sri Lanka is a country where we have lot of natural resources compared to most of the other countries. Now, some certain countries in the world, they are deserts. Now, they don't have greenery. They can't do agriculture easily. But they may be having petroleum and all certain countries. But when we take Sri Lanka, other than easy petroleum, all the other resources are there. Therefore, we have to concentrate on those natural resources. Because these are renewable. When it is renewable, you have to get the benefit today itself. You shouldn't wait for tomorrow. Because today's benefit, what you were supposed to get, you can't get tomorrow. Therefore, in the case of renewable sources, we have to think about getting the maximum benefit on time. Now, as an example, when we are running a factory, we can go for roof solar systems where you are getting a reasonable rate compared to the cost, because these rates, which is I think 2270 or something per unit, this rate, they have gazetted this rate at the time where the roof solar cost is about 1.5 million US dollars per megawatt. Now this per megawatt capital cost has come down to about 700 to 800,000 US dollars. It has come down almost 50%. Therefore, the rate what they have given, 2270, is very much attractive compared to national grid supply. When we are purchasing from national grid, the rate what we are paying. At the same time, when we are producing electricity and giving it to the national grid, the government can concentrate on this low cost purchase of electricity. With that, they can average the cost of their electricity sales price. Likewise, I think this is one of the most important sector for a country like ours. Now, then, at the end, when we take this budget speak, under the proposals, they have given a summary of the things what they are achieving, what the government is going to achieve in near future. Their expectation, always there has to be a goal. Now, we'll just run through the goals, what they have mentioned in this. One is the growth rate of 6%. They are expecting annual growth rate of 6%. Annual growth rate of 6%. At present, which is less than 50% of this. Right. Then, inflation rate about 5%. Now, inflation rate of high inflation rate is not an attractive thing. But for a development of a country, during the development period, we have to have a high inflation rate. Then only we can gear the industries towards high productivity and more production. Right. Then reduce the revenue and expenditure gap annually. Now when we take our budget speech, if you will see the budget speech, the biggest ultimate bottom line is a issue, because there's a huge amount to be financed with external loans. The main reason is our expenditure is much more higher than the revenue. As our expenditure is much more higher than the revenue, in future we have to reduce our gap between these two. Then reduce the public debt from 90% to GDP to 70%. At present, it is public debt is 90% of our GDP. It's a huge. Now, when we service 90% of our GDP for public debt, what's leaving for us? Only 10%. When we can't survive with that 10%, obviously we have to go for more and more loan facilities. Therefore, whether we like it or not, anyhow, we have to reduce this public debt percentage to GDP as early as possible. It is not an easy thing. It's so difficult. Now, these are the macro objectives of the budget 2021, macro objectives. Now, what is more important for us is the detailed aspects of this. Therefore, we'll move towards that introduction, like we'll move towards the individual budget proposals which are important mainly in the tax angle and all the related other things to our industries or enterprises. Yeah. Tax policy. Now, as I mentioned, we are looking for a simplified tax policy. When the tax system, the policy and the system is simplified, the evasion of tax percentage will come down. It has to be a reasonable tax amount. It has to be very reasonable tax amount, and the system shouldn't be complicated. Now, ours one issue is the tax system is so complicated. Now, as an example, you all know, now when we are running a business, it says repair expenses of an asset, of a capital asset. Repair expenses of a capital asset is limited to a percentage of the written down value of that capital asset. They are not practical at all. Because when we are running a business, we know how many capital assets we are employed for our business. When we are employed so many capital assets, it is so difficult for us to maintain the written down values, identify and maintain written down values of each and every asset. Then the other thing, according to this limitation, it says it says a percentage of the written down value. Now, when an asset is getting old, the repair cost is generally high. When the repair cost is high, the written down value of that asset is low. When the written down value is low, the claimability of this repair cost is also low. They are not matching each other. Tax law is not matching with the practical situation. What may have happened, the legislators were not knowledgeable or not experienced enough in the industrial or the business sector. Actually, always we have to appoint more and more business people to the parliament. Then there will be some people who can understand these things and express their views. Now, what has happened for last so many years, the people whom we are electing, majority of them are not practical people. They are good in talking. They are good in winning the election. That's true. But at the same time, they may, a majority of them, not everybody, majority of them are not practical. Therefore, now what we have to do, whatever the impractical things in the tax law to be changed and make the tax laws as much as simple. Now, when we take the interest allowance, now this is also a common issue to most of our businesses. Now it says interest expenditure is allowing up to a percentage of the equity of the company. If it is a company, we have to take the share capital and the reserves, that is the total equity. Now then, if it is a manufacturing company, 3 times of that equity, up to 3 times of that equity, we can obtain loans facilitating for tax purposes. Now, when we are running a manufacturing entity, 3 times of our equity, suppose the equity is 100,000 rupees, then 3 times of the equity is 300,000 rupees. We can, if we will obtain 400,000 rupee loan and running the business, the interest on that excess 100,000 rupee is not allowable for tax purposes. When it comes to non-manufacturing sector, this multiplication is not 3 times, it is 4 times. I can't understand the reason behind that, because as far as I feel, in the manufacturing sector, they should offer more weightage, say 4% for manufacturing, 4 times for manufacturing and 3 times for other businesses. That should be the ideal thing. But whatever it is, why we obtain loans when we are running a business? At least 95% of the reason is to finance the business. There may be few people, few board of directors who are obtaining loans under the company name and utilizing that loan for personal things. There are few cases like that. That you have to monitor separately. But for you to control that for tax purposes, they have introduced this 3 times and 4 times basis. Therefore, this is not simplified. This is not a simplified system, and also it is not a practical tax system. Then the second thing, they are going to introduce a special GST, goods and services tax, combining all expenses, all taxes in certain sectors. Yeah, in certain sectors, they have combined those, they have mentioned that they are combining those different taxes. Now, when we take, I'll first list down the items. It says alcohol, cigarettes, telecommunication, betting and levy, and vehicles. Now, if we are running a business like this, something to do with alcohol, something to do with cigarettes, telecommunication, betting and gaming, and vehicles. Now, when we take these businesses, there are various types of taxes. It may be import duty, maybe cess or excise duty. Different terms are there at different rates. Certain taxes are charging on tax as well. Now, this is not simple at all. For them to make it simple, they are trying to amalgamate all these taxes together and introduce a new tax called GST on those things. Only thing, by saying that they are amalgamating these things and introducing a new tax, I don't think with current situation, current financial situation of the country, I don't think the ultimate tax will come down. Most probably, when they are adding to all these things, there will be some type of, there will be some increase in taxes. Anyway, it is too early for us to talk on that matter. Right. will move forward. Then outstanding dues on ESC, NBT, now they with effect from, as you all know, with effect from 1st January 2021, 2020, 1st January, last January, they abolished ESC and NBT. Both ESC and NBT they abolished. But still, on old files up to 31st December 2019, there may be outstanding dues and outstanding cases with relate to ESC and NBT. As a result, the Inland Revenue Department can't close down their ESC and NBT departments, sections. There are some employees who are working there, some employees may be idle. Therefore, what the government is thinking, one is to get collected this money as early as possible. The second thing is to get release these employees from that department and close down those departments. They are proposing, they are taking new action to close down these files as early as possible. When they are closing down this file, they have to study these individual cases, finalize the tax amounts, and give some concessionary payment plans, easy payment plans, or waive off penalties. By doing these things, they can expedite the closing of ESC and NBT departments. That is their aim. Then, mandatory e-filing for companies. Now, with the RAMIS system of the Inland Revenue Department, they have introduced and they have already activated e-filing of all tax returns. Almost all tax returns we can file by way of online e-filing method. Right. But majority of us are not applying this e-filing system. Now, when we take our bank account operations, now in Sri Lanka, almost all bankers are having online banking systems. But if we'll take the number of, as a percentage of total number of the people who has activated e-banking as a percentage of the total number of bank accounts, it may be less than 50%. Now, because of that, now in filing of income tax returns also, what they are proposing is to make it mandatory of filing company tax returns with effect from 1st April 2021. If you are filing your company tax return on or after 1st April 2021, you have to file on e-filing method. I think that's a good idea. We have to start with business sector, and the other thing, they have started with the business sector from companies. As you know, under the present income tax law, Act number 24 of 2017, the taxpayers, they have categorized into 4 categories: individuals, partnerships, trusts, and companies. Now here, they are trying to introduce this for companies. Then they will extend it to partnerships and trusts as well as individuals. Right. Then provision for anticipated losses in calculating taxes of banks and financial institutions. Provisions for anticipated losses in calculating tax of banks and financial institutions. When we are running a finance business, always we have to anticipate some capital losses. When we offer loans to other people, some people, maybe 1% of the people might not repay the loans. Then there's a loss. Then the government, the tax law should accommodate, should allow that loss. For that, they say, anyway, even at present, they are allowing those losses. Now they again mention in this budget speech, they are strengthen that tax application. Then establishing of specific time frames for appeals. Specific time frames for appeals. Now, when we are appealing, as we know, when we receive an assessment by the Inland Revenue Department, under the new law, assessment covers self-assessment as well as assessments by the Inland Revenue Department. Now, when we receive an assessment from Inland Revenue Department, within 30 days of that date of the assessment, we are supposed to appeal. Right. Now, what they are going to do is to strengthen this appealing system. Right. Anyway, we have to wait until they legislate it. We expect that most probably they will legislate all these tax laws before 28th of February, before the last date of filing income tax return for extended time, before expiring the extended time. I'll talk about this extended time also later, right? Then, when we take these proposals, I'm just reading these proposals, then later on I will take wherever it is important, I will explain further. Special Tax Appeal Code. Now we know, when we are running a business, we have to have a peace of mind to concentrate on running the business. When we are getting a assessment from the Inland Revenue Department, whole our mindset get upset. Then it be difficult for us to concentrate on our day-to-day business activities. Therefore, there should be a simplified tax system which start from the tax payment or assessing until finalization of that. When we take the finalization of tax, ultimate stage is the court. First, we deal with the Inland Revenue Department. When the taxpayer is not satisfied with the decision of the Inland Revenue Department, next step we go to the Tax Appeals Commission. Then either party who is not satisfied with Tax Appeals Commission decision then can go to the courts, appeal courts. Now even at present we have appeal courts specially identified for tax cases. Now what it says is, now there are a lot of cases, pending cases in these courts, and there are a lot of delays of these cases. Therefore, the government is trying to introduce more courts termed as tax appeal courts, especially for tax cases. Right. Then employees. Now, this item employees, this is with relate to APIT, Advanced Personal Income Tax. I think the biggest blunder what they have done is abolishing the withholding tax. We know that it is withholding tax is a difficult task for the people who are running businesses. That's true. It's an additional work. But at the same time, when we take the recipient side, for a genuine recipient, a genuine person, if there's a withholding tax, they are very much happy with relate to the of having withholding tax. As an example, when we take an employee salary, according to the present system, employee salary when it is greater than 250,000 per month, you are supposed to open an income tax file and pay any taxes due and file an annual return. Each employee, even this particular employee is not having any other income, should open own individual tax file. Then if there are any taxes, do the computation, pay the taxes and file the income tax return. Earlier system, if his sole income was the employment income or any income where the final withholding tax, any other income with the final withholding tax is deducted, this particular employee was not supposed to open a file and file the income tax return. Now he has to do that. Now what's happening? Suppose this particular person is not knowledgeable in taxation, or he doesn't have sufficient time for taxation, to do taxation. He has to hire a professional for that. There's an additional cost on that. But if the withholding tax called pay tax was there, the employer was deducting the withholding tax and remitting. As a result, there wasn't a mandatory requirement of opening a tax file and filing the tax return. Right. Now, then this advanced personal tax is not a withholding tax. It is a tax what you are paying in advance. Instead of you paying taxes, you give a letter to your employer, asking the employer to deduct the personal income tax of your employee and remit it to the Inland Revenue Department. Right. Then most probably either they might reintroduce the payee tax through these amendments, or they accommodate sections to apply this advanced personal income tax into the Inland Revenue Act. Then exempted from income tax. Exempted from. Now, through this budget, now as you know, under the present Inland Revenue Act, hardly any tax exemptions. No tax exemptions under the Inland Revenue Act, number 24, 2017. Now again, they are introducing tax exemptions. Now, some time back we had, up to 2018, we had so many tax exemptions. Then with 2017 Act, from 1st April 2018, abolished all exemptions. Almost majority, 99.9% of the exemptions, they removed. Now again, they propose to reintroduce certain exemptions. Right. Now, what are the sectors? One is the agriculture sector. It says to agriculture, farming, including agriculture, fisheries and livestock. Definitely, when you see the definition of agriculture, it includes fisheries and livestock. It is for farming, but they have introduced a new word called, instead of agriculture, they have introduced a word agricultural farming. Now, as per the public notice published since January 2020, according to these public notices, they have already activated this exemption on agricultural farming. But unfortunate situation, the policy makers wanted to give the real tax exemption for agriculture. But as per these notices, that hasn't happened. The wordings of the notice, at the beginning, the politician said, agriculture sector, they are making tax free. But when they publish these public notices, pending legislation of the law, when they put those notices, it says agricultural farming, and it says without any processing. What the use of using that word, any processing? Anybody who is having a little brain can understand, who is having the knowledge, practical situation, can understand that agricultural produces are perishable items. When it is perishable items, when you are offering any tax holiday, tax exemption, you have to give the tax exemption up to the first level of processing to keep it without spoiling. Now, as an example, if you take the tea industry, I'll take one example, tea industry. Now, you and I are not asking green leaves for our consumption. What we are asking is the made tea, black tea. Some people may be asking vanilla flavored black tea or blended black tea or black tea in tea bags or anything like that. Those things may be further production. But making black tea, why we convert the green leaf into black tea? It is to measure the basic requirement of processing to keep it as without spoiling. Then the tax law should allow the tax exemption up to that level. But unfortunately, that hasn't happened with this. The wording, as per the wording, what they have used, it says agricultural farming without any process. No sooner you mention as no any process, definitely in the case of tea, it will cover only green leaf. Right. Anyway, this is the weakness what I mentioned at the very beginning. The majority of our politicians in any government, the majority of the politicians are not having sufficient practical knowledge in business sectors. That is the issue. Right. Then business in IT. Now the government has recognized that IT sector is one of the most important thing for a development. Now, as you know, today I wasted almost about 10 minutes due to lack of IT knowledge. Right. If I had that knowledge, I could have to save that time. Therefore, the IT sector to be improved. IT sector to be improved. Government has correctly recognized that sector also to make it tax-free. There may be so many arguments on that. Some people might say, why we are giving this exemption only for IT? Agriculture, majority of the people will accept that. Because in the case of agriculture, even it is taxable, it is very difficult for the tax administrators to secure the tax money. It is very difficult. It is spread over so many farmers. But when we take the IT sector, the tax administration cost is not very high. Then some people might say, why we are making IT tax exemption? No, I think it is the country's requirement, current requirement. The IT sector we have to develop. But later on, once the IT sector is much established in the market, again we can introduce some taxes on that. Those two are the main sectors. Agriculture and IT are the main sectors the government is considering to grant tax exemptions. Right. Saying that, I'll move to next item, strengthening the tax administration. This is very much important. As we involve with involved with businesses which are liable for taxes, we are dealing with the tax administrator regularly. Now the level of this administration in tax administrator has improved a lot, no doubt about that. But still, they have not reached to the required level. Now, therefore, the budget is proposing to strengthen the tax administration. For that, only thing they are mentioning that they are to have a separate department under the Inland Revenue Department, separate section to administrate the large taxpayers. Even at present, we have something like that. Now they are concentrating on that. Then they can assign intelligent tax officers, more intelligent tax officers into the large taxpayer unit and monitor the large taxpayers closely. By doing that, what they are trying to do is to strengthen the tax collection. At the same time, I think once these officers get knowledge in these sectors, I think it may be easy for us to get done various tax clearance and various tax things easily. Now, even at present, I can say the Inland Revenue Department now they are mainly working on online basis, and now they have improved a lot. Now we can log into their system, we can communicate with them. Some officers, I think almost 1/5 of the employees are working and 4/5 of the employees are working at home. We can communicate with them and get done certain works online. Right? Then legal provisions, there are various penal provisions in the tax law. Now they are going to strengthen or introduce penal provisions which relate to tax consultants and auditors. We are in a bad wicket. Now they are going to introduce the various sections to penalize the tax consultants and auditors. I think now what they have mentioned is they are in the opinion that majority of the tax consultants and auditors are manipulating, are giving support to their clients to manipulate tax, to evade tax. I think that may be the thinking of the policymakers, and as a result, unfortunate situation. But it is always better to have these penal provisions, but these wordings may not be reasonable wording. Anyway, if any tax consultant or an auditor go beyond the professional level and do tax support the clients for tax evasion, then they are going to introduce penal provisions to limit those things. Right? We'll wait for the law. Until that time, we can't comment on that. Now, those are the main proposals what they have introduced. Then they have categorized the things into several sectors. We will take this sector-wise analysis, and sector-wise we will discuss the balance part. Savings and investment. The country, when we take a country like ours, we need savings and we need investment. Without savings and without investment, we can't develop a country. They have recognized that, and they are introducing various proposals to promote savings and investment. All inclusive national savings program. They are going to introduce. They say that they are going to introduce some national savings programs. Then Samurdhi life savings account. Under Samurdhi grants, they are going to Samurdhi banks are there. Now they are trying to use that money for special savings scheme. Then Samurdhi Enterprise Development Loan Scheme. Through that savings, they are trying to give loans to the Samurdhi enterprise, the enterprises owned by Samurdhi beneficiaries. Then interest income of the welfare societies. They have mentioned that they are trying to exempt the welfare societies, the tax exemption on interest income of a welfare society. Now welfare societies, what they are doing, they do various activities, collect money, go and deposit those money in various financial institutions. With the interest, they are doing these welfare activities. Then government has recognized that it is not fair for them to charge tax on such interest income. They have mentioned that they are to exempt this income. Then deductible expenses for personal tax. Now this is already activated from January. They have already activated. This is a qualifying payment. It is a qualifying payment based on some expenses. Now we will see what are the expenses. Under this, they are trying to cover the medical insurance, interest on housing, medical insurance, interest on housing loans, and investment in government securities and listed shares. If you are investing in medical insurance, or if you have obtained a housing loan, when you are paying the interest, those interests, and if you are investing in government securities or listed shares, that investment you can deduct from the assessable income in arriving at the taxable income. There's a limitation. This limitation is 100,000 rupees per month per individual. 100,000 rupees per month per individual. That is 1.2 million qualifying payment. Right. Now we will move forward. Investment in housing market through Sri Lanka Real Estate Investment Trust. Now, investment in housing market through the Sri Lanka Real Estate Investment Trust. There's a body called Sri Lanka Real Estate Investment Trust. Now, through that, they are to have investment in housing market. Now, housing market, when we take these apartment projects in Sri Lanka, there's an issue. Now, there's an issue of selling those apartments. Therefore, government is trying to help them. Exempt the capital gain tax. Under this, they are trying to exempt the capital gain tax on apartment related things. Then dividend exemption from income tax. They are trying to exempt those companies' dividends. Then reduce the stamp duty up to 0.75%. These are the wordings what they have used in the budget speech. This third item, stamp duty, is not clear at all. Now, stamp duty of 0.75%. Now, at present, we have to see whether this is stamp duty on lease. If it is stamp duty on lease, as we know, the stamp duty rate is 1%, collected by the central government. If this is a property transfer stamp duty, it is 3% on first 100,000, 4% on the excess money. That means almost about 4%. That is 4%. But charged by the provincial councils. Can the central government influence to the provincial councils to reduce that 4% to 0.75%? I don't think it is possible, because the provincial council is a separate government. Central government can't change the laws of the provincial council. Therefore, we have to wait for the law to see what they have meant by this stamp duty. Stamp duty under Inland Revenue Act, under the stamp duty under the central government, or stamp duty under provincial councils. Right. Next, companies listed before 31st December 2021. Now, if you list, this is to strengthen the share market, to promote more and more people to list their companies in the Colombo Stock Exchange. Now, if you list your company on or before 31st December 2021, we have another 1 year. If you list your company in that, you get in the first year, that is 2021 year, 21-22 year, the first year, 21-22 year, 50% tax concession. Then, subsequent 3 years, it is not 50% tax rebate, it says 14% tax rate. Now, if you take a liquor manufacturing company, list in newly, then for 21-22 they can pay, their normal rate is 40%, instead of 40% they can pay at 20% because 50%. Then the second year onward, for next 3 years, instead of 40% they can pay at 14%. If you'll take a construction company, what will happen? Now the construction company tax rate is 14%, new tax rate is 14%, then 50% in the 21-22 you are supposed to pay 7%, but 22-23 onward, for the next 3 years you can't pay at 7%, you have to pay at 14%. There's no concession in that. That is the way they have mentioned in the budget speech. But as there's a unfair situation, most probably when they legalize it, it might say 14% of the highest rate. Now in that case, 50% of the tax subject to a maximum of 14% for next 3 years. If they'll mention it like that, those concessionary tax rate businesses can enjoy 7%. I think we representing these chambers should influence to the government to word this section in the tax amendment to say 50% of the concession subject to maximum of 14% from second year onward. I think chambers should write to the government, to the treasury, to the finance ministry on these points. Then taxes on capital gains. Now they mentioned the capital gain sale price of now at present we are paying capital gain on the capital gain tax at 10% on the capital gain. The method of calculation of gain is the sale consideration, that is the sale proceed minus the cost to the date of disposal. When we are applying the cost, if it is an asset we had from a date prior to 30th September 2017, we can apply the market rate which was there at 30th September 2017 as the purchase price, then add whatever the subsequent costs incurred by us. That is the current system. I think the way they have worded in this budget speech, instead of doing that, they are trying to get the maximum benefit. I think the taxes, they are trying to fence the manipulations, possible manipulations. Now at present, we might take a revaluation of the property as at 30th September 2017. We get a valuation report. Then if we'll influence the valuer to get a higher value as at 30th September 2017, our disposal profit will come down. Now, but the valuer is the professional valuer, therefore the Inland Revenue Department officers can't challenge that because it is the valuer who is qualified in that field. I think what they are proposing here is to stop that type of a situation. Now what they say is whichever is higher, the sale price of the property we have to take the sale price of the property, then assess value of the property. Who is assessing the value of the property? Now this assessed value, the term assessed value we can define in two ways. One is the value assessed by the provincial councils for rates. Now, in most of the areas, the provincial councils are charging rates. If it is a rated area, you can take the assessed value for tax purposes, rates purposes. That is one way of defining it. The other thing is assessing by the tax officers. Then the tax officer can assess the value. If they legislate it like that, what will happen? Always, in majority of the cases, the tax officers will challenge our sale price because it says whichever is higher. Basically, we shouldn't allow a room for the tax officers to assess the value of a company. That is not their duty. We have professionals who are qualified of valuing property. Therefore, I think anyway we have to wait for the legislation. Then exempt the dividend of foreign companies in Sri Lanka for 3 years if reinvested or for expansion or invest in money or stock market in Sri Lanka or international sovereign bonds. Now, we have foreign investors running businesses in Sri Lanka. Once they declare their dividends, they take out their dividends. For them to promote of reinvesting these dividends in Sri Lanka, government has proposed something like this. For next 3 years, they are trying to make the dividends exempt, a conditional thing. If they are reinvesting that money in Sri Lanka, it may be for expansion of the business, or it may be in stock market, or it may be in government bonds. 3 sectors are there. Then commercial banks in Sri Lanka. Commercial banks in Sri Lanka invest more than $100 million in international sovereign bonds. Now, this is to promote our bankers to invest in government security bonds, international sovereign bonds. Now, if a bank is investing more than $100 million in these international sovereign bonds, it is strengthened by investing. It is the government asset base is strengthening. For that, they have proposed this type of a proposal. Then the profit, if they'll do that, profit on capital and interest income is exempted for 3 years. Then the profit on capital, that is the by investing, suppose they discount those things in advance, you get a capital gain. That type of gain also to be exempted, or whatever the interest what you are receiving also to be exempted, right, for next 3 years. Only thing, most of these things we have to wait for the legislation to come in, right? Next, investment under the savings and investment section, again they have mentioned investment exceeding $10 million in areas of certain things. If somebody is investing more than $10 million in certain sectors, then they are trying to give some exemptions, right? Export industries, dairy, fabric, tourism, agricultural produce processing, information technology. If you are investing in these sections more than $10 million, you will be getting some tax concession. Now, how they are going to do that? They are trying to reactivate the Strategic Development Act. You know that we have an act called Strategic Development Law, Strategic Development Act. Now this Strategic Development Act is inactive at present. The act is there but temporary inactive. Now they are trying to make it active and give various tax concessions under that act. Maximum of 10 years tax exemption under that act. Then exempt from all taxes of, now they are trying to exempt these entities from all taxes like commodity trading, hubs. Now these sectors, they have identified certain sectors. When we read all these sectors, these are international trading sectors, international marketing sectors, commodity trading hubs in international trading. Now we can have, like Singapore, we can have a commodity trading hub in Sri Lanka, like Dubai. Right? Then by providing that service, we can earn various income. Right? Then investment in bonded warehouse. When we are doing this trading hub business, international trading, definitely we have to have bonded warehouse facilities. For that, to promote private sector to invest in bonded warehouse, they are saying that they are trying to exempt tax. Then the next, warehouses related to offshore businesses. Now offshore businesses, now some cases where we have offshore businesses where we import certain goods from one country and export it to another country. Sometimes these goods might touch Sri Lanka harbour or not. When it is touching Sri Lanka harbour, some cases we may have to have warehouses, bonded warehouses. Keep those things in the warehouse under the customs to do various changes and re-export. Maybe relabeling. That may be the only thing. Right. Anyway. Now, as an example, when we are importing from Pakistan and exporting to India, as India is not having, happy of getting down the goods from Pakistan, we can intervene and get down these goods to Sri Lanka and export it to India. To not to record any of these Pakistan origination, we can clear these, we can bring these goods into a bonded warehouse under the customs, then relabel the items and export it to India. Right. Next sector, investment in public health. Investment in public health. Now this is another, now earlier what we were talking is savings and investments. Savings and investment. Now this is public health. As I mentioned at the very beginning, I mentioned that they are thinking about the health sector of the country. To promote health sector, they are trying to promote the health insurance schemes. Now when we take most of the European countries, the first thing what we have to do is to obtain a health insurance policy. Without a health insurance policy, you can't stay there even as a student. Even for a student, the starting point is a health insurance. Now likewise, to do that, first we have to improve the insurance sector. Without improving the insurance sector, we can't do that. Therefore, now what they are trying to do is to new insurance schemes to be introduced to upgrade the temporary losing of livelihood. To secure the lives of the people. To secure that, they are trying to strengthen the health sector through insurance policies. Then the insurance fund for business with more than 50 employees. Now under this, they are trying to introduce they are trying to introduce some type of insurance fund. Only thing, we are too early to discuss this because we don't know how they are trying to do this. But the way they have mentioned in this budget speech, insurance fund for business. That means any business who is having more than 50 employees are to contribute 0.25% of their turnover for an insurance fund. This is they are trying to make it mandatory contribution. Then mandatorily these businesses should contribute 0.25% of their entire turnover to a insurance fund. I don't know how they are going to introduce this fund. It may be their own internal fund. Most probably it may be through an insurance company. They are the criteria for the time being they have recognized as 50 employees. If you are having more than 50 employees, only you are subject to this contribution. Then these employees, once you start this fund, employees of your entity is benefited by way of health situations, medical requirements, right? Saying that, we'll move forward to the item number 4. That is the proposal, the main category. Item number 4 is the vocational education. As I mentioned, vocational education is one of the most important things for a country's development. Not only the academic education, but also the professional education along with vocational education. Now, you are training for a business, vocational activity, right? Now, therefore, they have recognized that section. It says commence on business with the completion of completion of vocational education. Now, if you are starting a business of providing vocational education, then you will be benefited. Now what it says is the business size of the business is very small. It says 500,000. Now they are not mentioning the investment requirement, but they says for you to start a business like that, a vocational training center, it may be a garage, vehicle repairing garage. You are now, suppose you are having a good technical knowledge, then you can start a garage and accommodate other people and provide vocational education to those people along with running your business. Then the government says that they are proposing to give 500,000 rupee loan at 4% interest as the startup capital. For anybody who is having the knowledge and experience, for him to start the business, he may not be having the sufficient money. He may have to buy various equipment, or he may have to pay rent to a place. Then for that, at a starting cost, they are proposing that they are giving 500,000 loan at 4%. Then they are making these businesses 5-year tax exemption. Then cost of loan fund for lender a tax deductible expenditure. Now when a bank provide this loan to him, for the bank also they are trying to give a tax exemption on this loan. I don't know how they are trying to accommodate that. That of course we have to wait for the law and see. Anyway, cost of loan fund is the people who are giving that loan also may be benefited with this proposal. I think this is a sector we should promote people. This is a sector, once they legislate it, this is one of a worthwhile sector for us to promote people who are having knowledge in various practical things. Then private sector educational institutions is now if if a private sector educational institution is expand their capacity, expand their volume, double the student intake, if they'll double their student intake, then they'll be getting 5-year tax holiday. Now we'll say we have a educational institution. At present, we are accommodating 1,000 students there. If we'll increase these 1,000 students to 2,000 students minimum, then we'll be getting 5 years tax holidays. Only thing, this is the policyholders' idea. We have to wait for the legislation, how they are going to legislate it. Because most of these things, what will happen, the policymakers are having one view, but when it get legislated, the mainly the tax administrators and some other people are getting they involved with this task, and at last the actual legislation may not be meeting the requirement of the policymakers. Therefore, I urgently request all these chambers to represent these things, with the Ministry of Finance, to get incorporated or to get secure the policymakers' policies in the law. Right. Saying that, I'll move to next. Expansion of university facilities. This is a sector which we can't understand properly what they have meant by this. Now it says set a non-resident city university per district. Per each district, they are going to introduce one city university, minimum of one city university. The term what they have used is city university. And it says non-resident. We can analyze this in 3 ways. This may be, one can understand that this may be we are inviting foreigners to come and invest in this business. That may be the idea of the government. In inviting foreign investors to invest in these city universities. Then this may be inviting overseas students to come and learn in Sri Lanka. Now when we take certain universities, especially Kelaniya University, there are a lot of non-citizen students who are learning there. Chinese, various other Asian country people are learning these universities. The second idea may be that we are inviting non-resident students to come and do this thing. Then the third may be that we are promoting our people, our investors, entrepreneurs, to invest in these city universities and pass out our people in international education and send those our people abroad for employment. Now, especially when we take Asia, the European countries, there's a big demand for nursing practice. There's a big demand. They are earning more than qualified doctor. Then we can have a university or a degree program in nursing and train these nursing people, give the qualification and train them with the practical experience and seeking for overseas markets. I don't know what they have meant with this statement. Anyway, we have to wait for the legislation. Right. Either case, it is important for countries' development. Then tourism industry. I think now today, out of your some people may be representing the tourism sector. Now, at present, with the COVID situation, the world tourism is suffering a lot. Even our domestic tourism is in a bad scene because the people can't move in the society. Now, to promote the tourism industry, they are proposing certain things. Extend the concessions and recovery of loan granted by Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the refinancing. Now, tourism sector, there may be refinance loans arranged through Central Bank of Sri Lanka. If there are any refinance loans already given, now they are trying to extend the concessionary time period on those loans. The repayment time period, they are going to extend it. Then the treasury guarantee 50%. Then when they are extending, our bankers are not much happy with that because there's a risk. The risk, therefore, the government says 50% of that loan, the government is trying to give a crown security for that, treasury guarantee for the 50% of the loan. Then the bankers can give more facilities for these sectors. Next, foreign employment sector. Now, with this COVID situation, we know the foreign employment, we are in a bad wicket in foreign employment also. Now, there are contributory pension scheme for workers engaged in foreign employment. Now, they are trying to introduce a contributory pension scheme. Then the employer should contribute something, employee should contribute something, and create a fund and give this benefit. Then extra 2 rupee per dollar when they bring their overseas income into Sri Lanka. Government is proposing to give 2 rupees extra. That means suppose the dollar rate is 185. When an employee, overseas employed person is bringing that money, the bank should pay 187 and recover that 2% from the government. Something like that. Then agriculture sector, as I mentioned, agriculture sector, they are trying to give a lot of benefits. Out of those benefits, they are proposing to give free of charge fertilizer for paddy cultivation. Free of charge free fertilizer for paddy cultivation, and for other cultivations, concessionary rate fertilizer at the rate of 1,500 rupees per 50 kilogram bag. Then local dairy industry, this is also a sector which we can improve. We have to think about this sector, the agriculture and mainly the dairy products. Now, still, even we are having a lot of resources in Sri Lanka, natural resources, still we are importing majority of our milk requirement from other countries. Right. Now, for this, to promote that, special loan facilities up to 500,000 rupees they are trying to give at the rate of 7.5% per annum, concessionary rate. For what? To purchase dairy cattle. Setting up of eco-friendly cattle sheds. Purchase of equipment. For these sectors, they are in dairy sector to purchase cattle, to build cattle sheds and to buy equipment. They are trying to give 500,000 loan at the concessionary rate of 7.5%. Then import, they are trying to increase the import duty on dairy things. At the same time, they are trying to exempt the dairy cattle import duty. Now, with this in future, there won't be any import duty on dairy cattle. They are trying to import these things, and they are trying to put this, initially they are trying to put these cattle into their government farms, Ridhigama and Bopatta Lava farms. They are trying to put those cattle into those places, train to Sri Lanka environment, then to give to the farmers. Next, plantation. In the plantation sector, to promote that, they are trying to give custom duty exemptions custom duty exemption and financial facilities to the plantation sector, right? And to support the export market, if we are doing any value addition product for export market, then they are trying to give various concessions. Then reform from large scale plantation companies. Now this is a sector which is a problematic area. Increase the daily wage of plantation workers to 1,000 rupees from January 2021. At present, plantation workers are getting 50 rupees plus 700 rupees plus 50 rupees, that is 750 rupee wage per day. Now they are proposing to increase it to 1,000 rupees. As we know, our agreement with plantation sector employee-employer agreement is expiring by the end of this month. Therefore, anyway, from January we have to go for a new agreement. Then when we are moving towards the new agreement, according to this proposal, we have to offer them 1,000 rupees. But actually, I don't think it is fair for us to put this type of things into the budget proposal. This is a mutual understanding situation. We should allow the plantation management and the employees unions to discuss and come to a reasonable wage, because we have to secure the plantation sector as well as we have to improve the employees' financial situation both. From increasing from 750 to 1,000 is 33 and 1/3% increase, which is very high. But now the plantation sectors are trying to include this into 1,000 rupees, all EPF, ETF as well. If they'll manage to include the EPF and ETF, that 15% also into this 1,000 rupees, then the increase from 750 to this may be only about 17% increase, which is practical, right? Then next, amend the Public Utilities Commission Act and Ceylon Electricity Board Act to allow the rapid implementation of projects. Now, as you know, I'm not criticizing the previous government, but the reality during past periods, especially this renewable energy sector, decisions have not taken. Majority of decisions were just pending without any decision. Now main reason was the Public Utilities Commission issues as well as CEB issues. Now what they are saying is they have recognized these practical issues and they propose to solve those issues in future. Then the development of renewable energy. This is a sector where we have to concentrate. This is renewable energy, as I mentioned. If we are not utilize those resources today, we can't use that resource tomorrow. Tomorrow what we are using is tomorrow's resource. Therefore, we have to concentrate on this. Now for this, they are trying to give various things, and they are saying that capital grants of 150,000 to 10,000 small and medium scale agro enterprises. There are farmers who can have a solar water pump and run the business. For that, their government is trying to give up to 150,000 rupees grant for 10,000 people. Then allocate 750 million to private electricity, provide electricity. That is to widen the electricity system in Sri Lanka. The government is going to invest 750 million rupees, mainly for solar energy and other renewable energies. Then increase renewable energy capacity. Now the government is planning the renewable energy capacity to increase up to 1,000 megawatts. That's a good idea. But only thing, they have to plan for it and give the approvals on time. Then to allow a tax holiday of 7 years on renewable energy, at present the tax rate on renewable energy is 28%. Now with the proposals it will come down to 14% with January, but that is also not legalized yet. Now they are introducing 7 years tax holiday on that. That's a wise decision what they are trying to take. Next is foreign trade and national economy. Now we are trying to concentrate on agricultural commodities to structure our import-export duty structure to suit with our agriculture. Then in that commodity levies, cess, import taxes, and things like that they are going to rearrange. And any import of items relating to agriculture, they are going to have 3 tariff rates of duty, 0, 10% and 15% duty rates. Then the VAT exemptions are also they are planning. Then multinational companies, when a multinational company is doing businesses in Sri Lanka, for them to to promote, they are proposing to give 50% tax rebate on them on dividends. Then interest income on such dividends in investment income, the interest income on foreign exchange deposits, also they are trying to exempt from taxes. Then they have mentioned proposed to reduce the expenditure on research and development expenses, because in a country like ours, for development, this research and development expenses is very much important. For that you have to give promotions for that sector. For that they have introduced some promotions through Institute of Nanotechnology. Then the next sector, the thing is provide investment incentives into rubber, coconut related industries, building material and office equipment industry, furniture as major industries, and investments on household needs. In these sectors, they are concentrating to give various concessions. Now we have to wait for the law to see what are the concessions. Then dockyard facilities also they are trying to do something for dockyard facilities and long-term credit facilities for them. Then grant 7 years tax break on boat and shipbuilding industry. Boat and shipbuilding industry, they are trying to give 7 years tax holiday. Then automobile industry also, they are trying to give various exemptions, especially import taxes to be restructured to charge more on imported vehicles and less on parts for assembling in Sri Lanka. Then construction industry also they are planning to give various concessions, especially when we are importing the machinery, to duty-free import facility of machinery. Then implement a treasury guarantee scheme for loans, because we know when we do a project of government, it takes lengthy time period for us to recover our income. Therefore, for bankers to facilitate for them to give the financial facilities, now the treasury is offering guarantee, the government guarantee for bank to give us facilities. Then 10-year tax holiday for investment in recycling sites. Now recycling sector, they are trying to give 10 years tax holiday. Then public sector reforms, regulated framework providing the required commercial freedom. Now that of course we have to wait for the law because it's difficult to understand that. Then concessions for public servants, concessions for public servants. For public servants, they have offered some concessions. It says special loan facilities for them to get solar powered electricity, then permission to engage in other jobs while doing your job. If you are, after 8 hours, if you are energetic enough to do secondary employment, to allow the secondary employment, then the foreign employment, offering foreign employment leave, granting leave for you to go for overseas and do an employment. This facility is already there for certain employments. Then reduce the maximum interest charge on housing loans. On housing loans of their government employees' housing loan, they are trying to give put a maximum cap on interest. Then SME, now this time the specialty is they have concentrated more on agriculture and SME, agriculture, IT and SME. Now this SME, they are trying to give various concessions. One is tip scheme, temporary importation of export facility. Already this system is there. They are going to strengthen that facility. They are going to strengthen it, which is there already. Because non-BOI manufacturing companies, for export market, we are applying this tip scheme even at present. But as you know, there are a lot of practical issues in tip scheme, because you have to deal with customs department. And as a result, there are a lot of limitations. You have to give various bank guarantees. Now for that, right? Then they are trying to address to those issues. Then contributory pension scheme for self-employment. Contributory pension scheme for self-employment. Now pension scheme for self-employees, the biggest issue is not having pension scheme. Therefore, government is trying to promote these people. Now here they have proposed a new thing. The pension age, they are proposing to increase from 65 years of age up to 65 years. Now at present it is 55, they are increasing it to 65. But with this, there are some bad effects also. Once they increase it to 65, under EPF Act, next step will be, if they'll amend the EPF Act, if they'll accommodate this in the EPF Act, then you may not be in a position to recover your EPF fund until 65 years of age. That bad situation might be there. Only thing, not only this budget proposal, they have to amend the EPF Act also. Right? Then there will be issues on that. Then, next is compulsory retirement age. Now that is what I was explaining. That is not 60. That is the compulsory retirement age. Both men and women up to 60 years, not 65 years. That is the compulsory retirement age. The previous one, I think I explained differently. Introduce a contributory pension scheme to made available at the end of 65 years. Now this, as I mentioned, in private sector, the biggest issue is the pension scheme. Now a lot of our people are moving to government employees mainly because of this pension thing. Now they may be, because I know I have this experience, some of our employees in private sector, they leave their salary and join to the government sector even for a salary less than 50% of the salary. They join there seeking for this pension. Therefore, what we should do, if we are to secure the private sector, we have to have a solution for that. The only solution is having the competitive pension scheme for our private sector employees. For that, the government is proposing this. It says earlier I said that the contributory pension scheme is to be introduced, then the employees who are more than 65 years or 65 years can get the pension benefit under that. Right. Then the last one, what I was explaining is the pension scheme, pension age. The pension age is 60 years. Now they are trying to make it 60 years. But there will be a lot of issues on this. Because now if they'll, as I mentioned, if they'll amend the EPF law also, for you to claim the EPF fund, you may have to wait until 60 years. Then in that case, they should introduce this earlier one, the pension scheme, also effective from 60 years, not 65 years. Why there's a gap between 60 and 65 years? You are retiring at 60 years, but you are getting the pension, this pension, contributory pension, from 65 years. That is wrong. Therefore, when they are legislating, they should have the same number of years, same year range of 60 years. I took a lot of your time to discuss the points in the budget speech along with some analysis of the same with the available time. Now, I would like to wind up the session. Before winding up the session, I would like to request you to put your questions through comments of the YouTube channel. Then we will meet again to discuss further points on the budget 2021. Thank you.